Hey everybody, welcome to season 3 of Shoot the Veil. We're so excited to be back with you guys. We've got a very special guest, Greg Petersen. You've seen him in the app. You've seen him on the internet. Every major photographer you've seen probably has his preset, has collaborated with him. He makes presets that make photographers look like rock stars. And so we're excited to have him on the podcast today. You're going to learn so much stuff about editing, about what goes into it, how you should use it, tips, techniques, and just the inspiration to get creative. Sam and I are so glad to be back to season 3 of this podcast.
Man, that's awesome. 3 seasons.
Let's go.
Dude, that's awesome. And another thing I want to say really fast, and I'm not being paid to say this, I just want to give a little shout out to someone who's just been a big help to Shoot the Veil. We're currently in Nashville, traveled up to see Greg, and Vaco has so kindly just given us their spaces. And not even just here, but in Memphis. So if that applies to you, if you're looking for recruitment or something like that, and you're an executive high up, go check out Vaco. I mean, these people are just out here to serve. Mm-hmm. Without any further ado, let's just jump right into this podcast.
Let's go. Welcome back.
Welcome to Shoot the Veil, a mobile app made by wedding photographers for wedding photographers to help inspire you to create and equip you to grow. I'm Sam.
And I'm Donnie, and this podcast is about wedding photography as an art and as a business.
Welcome to the 3rd season, everybody.
All right, here we go.
We're going to just kick it off. This is the 3rd season of Shoot the Veil. We have an amazing guest, Greg Petersen, founder of G Presets. If you don't know who that is, get educated.
Yeah.
You may be using one of his presets. So this guy is just like the founding father of a lot of photographers, I would say, look.
Yeah, for sure.
And I see, I it's getting to a point where I'm like, I wonder if they're using a preset from Greg. When I look at him, I'm like, that style looks.
Can you tell, like when you look through someone's collection, you're like, oh, I made that?
Typically, yes, but it's so vast now because all the collaborators that it's changed looks so many times with each collaborator that it's a little harder for sure.
Yeah.
It used to be when it was just my signature stuff, totally.
Yeah.
Because now you collaborate with a lot of, photographers. Are you like actually going in and like reviewing their photos and like, I'm going to make you a preset? Because I know you do a lot with Dawn and Summer and Miles and a lot of other photographers. Mm-hmm. How does that process go about when you're like making them a pack?
Yeah. So that's interesting you said that because I do, like we'll be creating stuff and they'll tell me with words like what they want, right?
Whoa.
And I'm like, okay, I create that. And they're like, oh, that is not what I was thinking. Because people will say like, oh, I like, a little bit of contrast. I like my whites to be super bright.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
I do that and they're like, whoa, that is like not what I'm talking about at all.
And they really wanted to roll off with the whites.
Yeah, they
and
don't actually want that. So
right.
I've learned now I've got to study. I've got to study their Instagram feed, basically.
Yeah.
Right? That's what people like. That's what people expect out of that photographer's, because their work that in their preset, right? They're like, oh, if I buy a preset, it should look like that. Yeah. So I do go in and I study their feed and I create based on seeing that as well as what they've told me. I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. Right. But it's hard to put that in words.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know how I would do that. Like kind of this, kind of that.
And it does end up being kind of this and kind of that. Right. But I can see visually what they mean. And I've now learned what they mean by bright whites and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's transitioning now though, which is interesting, to True-to-Color and a little, I wouldn't say more contrast, but it's not as faded and muted in the highlights where it is a little bit brighter.
I've noticed in that too. What is this new style of wedding photography? I feel like we came from this super warm, crunchy, grungy, grainy into like this more like True-to-Color thing. Are you seeing a lot of that? Are those selling those kinds of presets a lot more?
Absolutely. In most of my collaborators that have had packs with me for 2 to 3 years or longer, they're ready for that second pack that maybe is less stylized.
Stylized. That's how you would categorize it. Like it looks more quote unquote real.
Yeah. Which there's a balance there. So I'll create something that is exactly right. True to color and less stylized, and it looks boring, right? You still need something in there.
Okay.
And there was that sort of phase, which is still there, like the film True to Color is sort of a thing as well. but then we're kind of moving away from the grain a little bit. So it's not as filmy, but it's maybe more editorial, I guess.
Okay.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah. Like something a magazine, they want true to color because the color has to be accurate for fashion.
Yes.
Is it mimicking fashion on that level, or is it still, are wedding people still wanting something special?
I think they don't know it, but they do want some style.
Right.
You want it to look like, you want it to look edited, but you don't want it to look over edited.
Yeah. You want it to look special.
Yeah.
Like interesting, but not edited.
But the thing, it's also a consistency thing, right?
Okay.
I feel like when I'm editing, like all of my greens or yellows, for example, like those are like my KPIs of consistency. Like how are those turning out? And I'm not even really, I might be like decreasing luminance a little bit or saturation, but I'm like, that's going to give me that consistent look. I don't know if I'm totally like missing the ball here, but that's how I kind of see it. Like you're creating a consistent look that's true to color as well, because it's hard. It's not easy to make a raw image look, true to color, and not bland.
Well, there's also this, right? Like what you actually see with your eyes is not necessarily what your camera captures, right? With different sensors. So what I'm typically trying to do is like, okay, yeah, that shirt's blue, but it's getting a purple cast on it. If I go and correct that, then when I have an actual true blue shirt that someone shot and I apply that preset, now that is no longer blue because I corrected that. So that's also the tough thing with creating presets, is making sure I don't have images I'm working with that have these weird casts in them.
Yeah.
And that's how you get them versatile, is making sure it's like a well lit image, but that's
right.
I mean, it's tough to do.
It totally is, and like I totally see that as well. And like if one of my presets, like I decrease the saturation of the blues because it helps out with like if someone wearing a white shirt, right? Like typically white, maybe it's just my Canon sensors just show up as blue. That's if I'm trying to target that color, it turns out as blue, and then my sky is just, if it's a sunny or blue day, like it's gone. I'm like, I don't know how to bring that back.
So I created an AI mask. Are you talking about like a white shirt looking blue?
Yeah. Or purple.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I create an AI mask that finds the clothes of your subject and removes that color cast.
So I just like click it.
Yeah.
And it's not affecting my foreground or background or anything. It's just like,
no,
that's something. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which I actually did that for Dawn as well. With her Twilight pack, we have something like that in there. And then I did one with my pack 6 that I just released.
Dude, I heard about this.
And it's a little bit, it's different because it uses the point color selector. Have you guys mess with that at all?
Yes, that's a new feature this
year. I know enough to know it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to use it right.
And it's for me as well, like these new like settings come out and I've got to learn them. And it's sort of like constantly trying it. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I kind of understand this. But yeah, it is weird.
So you made a preset that I use the point selector, or does your preset do it for me?
It does it for you.
How does that work?
Yeah, so I found, a common color in most photos. And then another, you can do, I think up to, I don't know the exact number. I think maybe 5. So I found certain colors within a certain set of images that are pretty common, with blue and sort of a purple, and maybe a lighter blue, a darker blue, and I kind of removed those. Okay. But what's interesting is it doesn't, like if there was a blue suit, it's not just going to completely remove that.
Right.
Blue suits, man, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I have a vendetta against blue suits personally. I wear them, but if I'm taking pictures of you in a blue suit, it casts blue skin tones all over you.
Wow.
And I'm like, I was just editing a wedding yesterday and dude's wearing not even like navy, like a very blue suit. And, light reflects any color around you, right? And so their skin tones are just blue. And I'm like, in order to kill that, I feel like I was killing the suit color, which was altering the experience in the wedding day. And so your smart filter, your AI mask would essentially help that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about AI masks in general is you can now edit those specific areas without just bumping up your white balance in the entire image going warm, right? You can choose your background. How warm do I want that? How warm do I want my skin tones? Yeah. And then in the end, your suit's still blue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you do it the old way of bumping up your white balance and applying a preset, you don't have a blue suit anymore. But you can choose the suit now, and how much do you want in there, right?
Yeah.
Just the suit. You don't have to brush it anymore either.
The AI presets are crazy. I thought it was, well, and even what you're saying, AI mask. So there's this intelligence to masking. It's not doing what AI editing does.
Right.
Like imagine it's doing masking intelligently. Okay. So when that came out, it's only been out for like a year or two, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I should know the year. I feel like it was 2022, but I could be wrong.
Too. Like I think it was mid 2022.
It's relatively new.
I remember I stopped, like if I wanted to highlight an iris, I didn't have to draw it anymore. Because that would suck. And then I'd like make the white of their eye blue or something. And then I was like, oh my gosh, iris enhance? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is sky. Oh my gosh. Subject. And then I could like invert the subject if I wanted to. That was crazy.
Well, that's how it started. And
that's
then
how it started.
Yeah. And then you had to like invert background to get your subject. But now it's subject, it's clothes, it's the beard, it's the eyes, it's the teeth.
Yeah.
It's the hair. I mean, it's crazy. It's they've figured it out.
Dude.
What do you think's next? This should be the end of the podcast.
Adobe, you better be listening.
Yeah, listen up, Adobe.
Oh, I wish I had an answer for you. I don't know what's next, dude. I mean, I feel like it's so cool what they've done so far.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very simple, but I hope that there's going to be HSL in the AI masks. Because now you're having to use the point color selector to find a color, but it's not the same, right? Like you want it to be your HSL, and I want to just apply that just to my background or whatever.
So we're going to clip this out. Adobe, listen up. Go. What would you do if you were writing the software to write what you just described?
Well, I would add HSL to AI masks for sure.
And what would that allow you to do as an editor, as a preset maker? What would that allow you to do for me as someone who say I'm like 50% knowledgeable of how to use Lightroom?
Well, I can focus in on specific colors, right, and remove the tones that you want out, or add in the tones that you want in there. Whereas right now, I can bring down saturation, but I don't want the entire saturation. I want to select those colors in the same way that I can select those colors in the HSL panel.
Yes.
For the whole image. You want to be able to do it within a masked.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
And so I totally know what you're saying, because I don't know, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm just so used to HSL that I don't use point color anymore, or I just don't use it because that's a new feature as well. But I would just be using HSL to like try to bring down like chromatic aberration, and I'd hit like, this is before I understood what chromatic aberration was. I was like, what is this purple around my subject? Right. And so I just get the purple slider, kill it.
Right.
Magenta, it's killed. But with that, like I could go and select around, let's just shirt, for example, and just hit that color and bring it down without killing the pink in her dress or something like that.
There's a section for that.
Really?
Yes. So, gosh, if I had Lightroom in front of me right
Dude,
now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pull up your course, man.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
Your course is awesome. I was literally watching it the other day. For everybody who's listening, go watch this course. It's on Shoot the Veil right now. So if you want to understand editing way better than you could comprehend, go check it out. It's on the course. It's amazing. It's on the app. My little brother texted me. He's like, dude, this course is awesome. I'm learning so much. I'm like, I'm so glad. That's so good. He's just on his phone, just checking things out. It's
so
great.
For the aberration stuff, was there like a place that does all that? You're talking. You were kind of pointing to it. I could see your visualizing.
I know, and I'm trying to
right side, scroll down halfway.
It's okay. It's in the lens corrections spot.
Okay.
And there's a second tab you click.
Yeah.
And it's where there is like the vignetting and distortion, I think, that you can do manually. In that section, I think I'm right. Gosh, I wish
No,
I
you're
had it
right.
for
And
me.
there's two sliders. One's pink, one's green.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you hold down Option on your keyboard and you change that
Master level.
Yes. And you turn up, I want to say like whatever it is to remove that color, and you hold down Option, it's going to show you that color as you're turning it up, it's going to mask it out. So you know, like, okay, how much I have to pull out to remove the purple, right? Whereas you can't really see it when you're just turning that up. So if you hold down Option, that's a quick way to see the exact color being removed.
Wow.
Dude.
And that's the stuff that, like, practically speaking, when a person's looking at that image edited, we see it on someone's Instagram or whatever, there's just something special sometimes where this looks super high end. It looks super beautiful. Like, it's perfect. And then others that are done with probably the same camera, a really good photographer, just look good. Yeah. But there's something of a level of perfection that we can perceive, but we don't know how we're perceiving it. I couldn't name what you just described if I'm just looking at the image. But that's where you get to those levels. That's why it's worth it.
Totally. Greg.
Or I just pay you to make my stuff.
That's right.
I nerd out in Lightroom for sure.
Yeah.
If I'm editing a photo, I don't know if it necessarily looks over edited. Maybe it does. But I definitely get crazy, like doing all the things in the tone curve and the masking and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, people follow you, like you should follow Greg. You're posting lots of before and afters, and I'm looking through them. This looks amazing. I don't know why, like, because this other one looks good too, but there's just something extra. Like, I don't know how you describe that if you could, but there's just something that makes it better.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, people want it to look edited, but they don't want it to look over edited. Like you want to see something. You want to see a difference. Like straight out of camera is fine, but it's like missing something.
It is,
right?
It is.
It's just that little bit of contrast and those color shifts. Color shifts, I think, is the biggest thing. It just has a different feeling when you shift those colors.
100%. It's like grilling a steak with no seasoning or something like that.
Okay.
It's
still a
great.
steak.
It's still a steak. It's still good.
Put some butter on
Because everybody
it.
uses the steak analogy when they're talking about delivering raw photos. Okay. Like, I'm not going to give you a raw steak.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to give you a cooked steak. If I'm a chef and you order a steak and you say, can I also get the steak raw? No.
Right. No.
That's an insult to me because I'm the chef that's supposed to be taking care of you. It's the same thing with raw photos. I've heard that analogy. I've stolen it. I've used it. It's great. To go further, now I'm not seasoning the steak. So that's there you go.
Yeah.
A little
and if you take a long time, you're aging the steak.
Oh, there you go.
2 months. It's been 2 months aged. It's going to be better.
Oh my gosh. It's so
How
good.
far can we take this?
Right. How far can this analogy go?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good. A question I wanted to ask you, is there one preset that you've made that you feel like outperforms all other presets?
Oh God, I can't say that now.
Oh, is that gonna like?
I can't say that now.
Oh shoot.
If it was my own,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because you're collaborating with photographers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot.
But you know who it is. Tell us later.
Yeah.
they're all great. I love them all.
There you go. All equal.
I really do. I spend so much time with them, and like hours of calls, like Zoom calls. It's a group of us, and like we're all really close. Like
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
And we all have a connection now. Like they didn't maybe know all of them before, all my collaborators, but now they do, right? Like we're all somehow friends, and
Wow.
yeah.
A byproduct of your work is community,
Yeah.
which is really good.
Which was not the intention originally, I don't think.
Dude, that's what happens when good things are made. It's like community is a byproduct. When a lot of times like your goal is to make community, it's lost. But when you have something where community just is a byproduct of a great product, it's an indicator that something good's happening. So kudos to you, man. That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't answer your question about the one preset.
You didn't.
But I do think for my signature stuff, my Pack 6 is it obviously it's brand new.
Okay.
But I do feel like it is probably the most versatile pack out of my signature stuff.
Gonna
But
go buy
it still has stylistic stuff in it, but also has that easier kind of one-click stuff in there.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And like 42 masks. Like
Holy
I
crap.
literally went insane. So
Yeah.
my brother's also a photographer, and he texted me and he was like, "Oh, dude, I like how you have masks in some of these packs. It just sometimes I feel like I wish they were all in one place." And I was like, "All right, well, I'm not going to take what I've already created and redo those, but I'm going to do what I would put in a mask pack." And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to include this with pack 6 because this is basically the pack I would use to do everything.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a ton in there. I'm not trying to sell that pack right now, but
you did. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, we are. Go buy the pack.
What was your transition coming out of wedding photography and realizing you wanted to delve into the color and editing aspect?
Yeah.
So let me see. How do I start here? Like, I've always been obsessed with editing photos. Like, before I was even a professional photographer, like when I was younger, I'd use, what's it called? Was it called Aperture? Mm-hmm. You would know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Apple had their own editing software.
Yeah.
It was called Aperture. And I would go nuts in there with just whatever a camera I had, I would edit. Probably like super HDR or something.
Oh, yeah. Look how far you could take the saturation.
Yes. Yeah, and the clarity slider. I don't even know if it was called something else. Oh, man, I can't remember. But anyway, so I was always obsessed with that. So then when I did my own stuff, I actually started doing video. And I hated it because I couldn't edit the footage like I could edit a photo.
Isn't that so sad?
Yeah, it's better now. Like with log footage, you can do a lot, but not when I was doing it. At least with these cameras. So anyway, so then I was like, all right, I'm gonna do photo because I can really edit these. Well, people sort of started liking my edits, and that's when I was like, all right, maybe I should start releasing these to people in some way. And I actually have to give credit to Dawn Charles because she was selling presets, and I was like getting all these DMs, and was it even DMs back then? I don't know.
Yeah,
dude, there was a separate app.
Maybe
wasn't there a separate app for like Instagram chat? Maybe I have it backwards.
I don't know. I can't remember. This was probably like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so she kind of helped me. She was like, you know what? Like, this is how I sell them or whatever. So that it was really just like interest in my work.
Cool.
And I had a unique style. So, and then I like, it just like blew up right away. Like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I like shooting weddings, but I also really love editing. Like, that was my passion was when I got to my office.
Wow.
I liked, the shooting part of it, but I'm not like great with people, like guiding them. Like, I really just am quiet the whole time. And then I felt awkward about being that way.
Yeah.
Like, you guys know that feeling.
For
like,
sure. Yeah.
So I was like, I'd rather be in my office. How do I make that happen?
Right.
So
just to really like, you can just focus on something. So I love being at my desk and like tweaking photos. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so much of the style. I feel like it's so much of my control. It's a lot of fun.
Hey guys, real quick, just to interrupt the podcast. We were talking about ways to see this grow. We're so excited to have an impact in a real way on the wedding photography world. We want to see it grow and become all that it's supposed to be, and you become all that you're supposed to be. One of the coolest things that we could see you do right now is give a 5-star review, subscribe to the podcast. That tells Apples and Spotify's and all that it's cool, that other people might like it. So that would mean the world to us. And I think it would mean a lot to the wedding photography world. So thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
Legit, I do believe that the noise reduction in Lightroom is the greatest thing on earth. Like, that's the best setting that they have come out with. I have photos that I've taken from 2014, right? Sensors are not where they were now. And I apply that. It is incredible. The amount of detail that comes out of it afterwards, it's amazing.
Are you talking about the AI one, or are you talking about the manual noise reduction?
No, not the manual.
Okay, you're talking about
the denoise. The AI denoise is incredible.
Yeah,
it is.
It takes the quality of your image so much higher after you apply it, and you can take it too far for sure.
And dude, but candlelight dinners at weddings.
Oh yeah,
when there's that moody vibe, maybe they're outside on the porch, and it's like I could bring out the flash and it would look cool, paparazzi look. But then I can't capture the essence of this night. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like cranking my ISO, dude. I'm at 12,000. And then I can go in there.
Yeah.
And give me 2 seconds. And it's like I'm, shooting at 1,600 again.
Yeah.
So you've done that where you've shot way above 10,000 and you apply that and it's money.
That's fine. It's totally fine. Absolutely.
That's the greatest. I love that setting for that reason, because you get in those situations on a wedding day. You can't change the lighting.
Right.
You can't do anything about this light bouncing here and these candle lights and then the chandeliers or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then how dark it is or whatever. And then now you can actually fix it. Like,
speaking of things that you can do, like I love having my hands on the controls. And so you're giving us tools that give us better control of all of that. There's a new world of AI editing, and there's some amazing companies, and we're actually partnering with some of these companies. Like they're amazing. They're giving photographer back a ton of time. But talk about how someone who lives in the preset world and creates these for amazing photographers, give us your perspective on what's happening with AI in the profile side.
Yeah. So I think the coolest thing about Imagine is that for these seller profiles, which I do have with Imagine, it's taken that person's editing style, their choices and everything, and built it into one profile. And you're able to apply that on a session so quickly, and you're not having to change your exposure, worry about where should I put my white balance. It used that seller's choices, right, with white balance, and applies it right away. Because that's one of the hardest things, is to know how should I adjust this stuff. So profiles do require a preset in order to work.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
Go ahead.
But the cool thing is, and this is what I've noticed, is like, for example, with a profile, and if I'm making my own, and you have your own based off of your presets, which is really cool. But if I wanted to use one of your packs, and I'm using that as my look, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to, I'm using preset 1, 2, and 6 all the time, right? So I'm using these. It's going to basically analyze how I take the raw colors and how I treat them with each preset. So if you notice, okay, in these situations of the lighting here, or with when he's shooting, let's say a purple dress, we notice there's a lot of purple here. He's using this preset with these characteristics. And so now it's giving back the time, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
That was a good segment on AI. It's going to be part of our ecosystem.
Right.
Because it's giving us back time. So basically, if I heard you right, you make all these decisions 1,000 times. AI is just automating those simple decisions for you based on
essentially
a lot of learning that it does over time. And then, but this is going to get interesting. What about when I want to change my style or change a little bit between weddings? I'd love to get your perspective on changing looks. Should I do it as a photographer? Should I have one look and all my weddings look like that? Or should I kind of adjust between the feel of this bride versus that bride?
So this is how I feel, and this is how it was with my work. The time to try out something new is like an engagement session, because you're in a more creative setting. Maybe you're at the beach, and all of a sudden you can use more contrast, or maybe put in more blue that you don't normally do, or whatever. For a wedding, I feel like that's where you got to be pretty true to like what people are expecting when they booked you a year ago.
Okay. Important.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people are booking you based on your style, and then a year goes by, and all of a sudden you go, unless that you've put something out and they love it and they're like, oh, I would love to see my wedding look like that, which I think is rare. But they booked you a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever, and expected that style. So I think a wedding is different.
Okay.
But there is that slow evolution, like you said, and I think that's when you do those creative shoots to try that out and sort of see how people perceive it, if they like it or not.
That is huge. Everybody needs to hear that and kind of zero in on that.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, imagine like I'm hiring a photographer with a very true to color look, and it's my wedding. I'm like, this is amazing. This is what I'm going for. I don't want the others that are going super warm or super filmy. And then I go for this true to color guy. And a year later, when my wedding comes around, he or she does this and basically just makes it, let's say, went complete film stock. Like, whoa. I didn't pay $5,000 for that. You know what I mean? And so you have creative freedom within boundaries. Like you said, I think an engagement session is perfect for that.
I think it's the best time to try out something new.
Exactly.
And you get to, I don't know, I felt more creative with that.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, there's no wedding dress, there's no specific suit color.
Yeah.
There's no, I don't know, flowers that
My
you're trying to
favorite thing of the entire process is the engagement session.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's why people do elopements.
That's why people do elopements.
Well, that's how I ended. I guess, I don't know what ended, but I don't really shoot anymore, right? So that's how I got to that point where I was like, I'm only doing elopements.
Okay.
Like it was that same feeling. I could be creative the entire time, and it was like 4 hours, right? But you could be creative. You could be creative that entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Right on. Right on. That's why I love watching Tyler Rye, because he put one of his follow-alongs on the app, and you're watching this guy, and there's no wedding party, there's no guests. They're just like in freaking New Zealand having a great time. I'm like, that is so awesome.
And that's when it's like super fun.
Yeah.
And you're like constantly like, oh, I see this is cool. And you're walking around, it's all just awesome. And it's not like a golf course where you're like, how do I make this cool?
The golf course is so on point.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know that I want you on the green, but maybe that tree that's right there.
Can we go to the bunker? Can y'all lay down in the bunker?
Let's throw some sand in the air.
Yes, there we go. Maybe I can Photoshop a beach.
Man.
Oh, that's so good. All right, I'm going to ask you a fun question. What is let me ask this. Do you have a favorite color in the editing world that's the best to edit? Do you have a least favorite color?
I like seeing warm colors in an image.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it'd be necessarily a certain color, but like I like seeing like a light, like off-white, and then like a more like tan color or something. I don't know. I came from like the warm editing world. That's where I definitely started. So I still lean towards that way. So when those colors are in there, I don't feel like I have to warm up the entire thing like crazy.
Yeah.
It complements skin tones.
Yeah.
I'm right there.
Exactly. Maybe that's it. I didn't even think about that.
It complements skin tones. And so when I send out like a style guide, I'm like, look, stay away from very saturated colors, because if you're white, if you're Hispanic, if you're black, you're still absorbing color. Your face is still a reflection of what's around you. And it gets to be a little more true to color when you don't have highly saturated tones. And so I'm like, stay away from high pink, magenta, stay away from blues, stay away from reds, or you're going to look like that. You are light absorbs whatever around it. It's like when you walked in here earlier and we walk into the podcast studio. We're here in Nashville with Greg. And first thing he says is, what color is that light at?
Yeah, we've got blue
It's a
light,
5600.
orange light.
Yeah, and so we have multiple lights. I love that because that just shows your attention to color. But we would look paler with a cooler tone. Or
It's got to be annoying to walk into every room thinking, can we warm this up? My skin's going to look bad here.
Bro's like reaching for the temperature slider.
Yeah.
And is like, wait a minute.
I bet you love the Philips like the light control.
Dude, I was just gonna say, what's funny is we are starting to add there's two types of lighting in your house. Like you've got your task lighting, which is like your can lights. Those are your high power lights. But then you have like your ambient lighting, right? Like
practical lighting,
like the mood lighting.
Yeah.
And that's where you have your really warm lights, and then at night you kind of just barely put those on.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I pay attention to that stuff so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
You walk around changing bulbs all the time.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Okay.
I walk into someone's house and they've got like a bright white like that in their entryway. I'm like, this is. I got to change that.
I'm leaving.
We're going outside. We're going outside.
I can't.
We don't use overhead lights.
That's
really.
funny.
It like shrinks the room. I don't know how to say it, but having like what they call practical lighting, like the film world, it actually expands the room.
Yeah.
I don't know. One tip. Question I have for you is, are there any tips a photographer could do to speed up their editing workflow? If it's out on the field, if it's like, what are some tips? Like if you give me 5 tips, maybe not even that, like 2.
Give me 30 things
I had
to do.
someone ask me like, how can I speed up my editing workflow? I'm taking weeks to get weddings done, and I see other people that are doing it in like a day or 2 to get a wedding done.
I think it all depends on what you're dealing with. When you do a quick edit session, it's because the lighting was amazing, outfits were on point, the couple was natural the whole time. It's so hard to just give a straight, like, this is what you need to do.
That's validating.
You know
I'm
what I
glad you
mean?
said that. Yes.
Because I just don't think there is just one thing, and I feel that way when I'm creating presets. as well. Like there's not just one thing I can do to make every image look perfect.
Sorry, brides, if you're listening. Yeah. It took 2 months because you were bad at being photographed.
Right. Yeah. I exceeded our delivery time by 3 weeks because, well, yeah. It's so funny.
All right, I have a question about the green world, because this year that like popped out, like everything is the greens replaced, I think, the warm stuff to a certain degree. Maybe not replaced, but like became like, oh my gosh, let's pay attention to this.
Greens as in like the Matrix color grade, or
like I'm in Oregon in a forest.
Oh,
the dark and the green, like that became a lot. I think it came out of the True Tone. Like True Tone became a big deal. I'm telling you, like, you know way better than I do. But all I know is I started seeing it more. The
I know
dark
what you're
greens,
talking about. I know
the
what you're
lush
talking about.
green. Like, is that a new thing? Is that hard to do? What do you think of that whole movement?
Well, I'm curious. Do you mean like actually like a green in the image, like
in the image,
in the color grading, or do you mean like in your surroundings?
In the surroundings, in the environment. Like it used to be something that even if there were green trees, we would still pull it a little warm, and it would focus on the skin tone, and it would be a little warm. But now greens are being actually featured in the image. It feels like different than they used to be.
Yeah. So I think that when people say true to color, that's pretty much all they're talking about. We're trying to remove that like super desaturated green, right? Like
yes.
That it was cool when it was going on.
Right.
I loved it. And I still don't want to saturate them. I just want them to look real. And I think what you're talking about is really just the true to color. And that's mostly what people are talking about when they say true to color. It's like, and everyone has a way they want their greens, a little bit cold or a little bit warm, but you're not really overdoing it anymore, and you're not removing them too much. I like to bring down the luminance of them, so you're still getting that effect of like separation. That's what pulling the saturation out of the green, that created separation between your couple and that. But lowering the luminance, I think, does that in a better way without removing all the color.
There you go. Okay, that makes sense to me. And that's why we like it. I think humans in general, like biologically speaking, we're attracted to green because it means life. Like in the world, in nature, green is very appealing, and it's a very unique frequency of color. And so now that we're seeing it in wedding photography and in photography in general, it's a different level of enjoyment. It does something for me when I see it. I'm like, this feels good.
Yeah.
I think there's something just core to human nature that is liking this true to color.
I'm seeing another topic. I'm seeing a lot of this color graded green in yellow, like the warm, like I think the photographers, maybe in Hawaii, Esther's Cannon, I think that's the name, but it's just like really heavily color graded. So it's like film, but not film stock. It's just color graded, and it's like bringing nostalgia back that I've never seen before. So Salt Visual Media, they're Sam and Melina out in Hawaii. They, for an example, are using that, and it's like bringing this color into the images. And I'm like, I feel like it's a memory, like a distant memory. Anyways, that's a new one too that I've seen come out, and I'm like, I am eating this up.
Yeah, I love messing with that.
Yeah, I can't figure out color grading. I can't figure it out, but it's a beast. And when it's done correctly, I'm like, that is so good.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Greg, what are like your top 3 nodes/sliders in Lightroom that you touch in every photo?
The most important slider in Lightroom is your white balance.
Amen.
Okay.
That is your skin tones. Like 100%. You're starting off, when you adjust your white balance, you find what you want that skin tone to look like, and then you tweak it, right? Like you get your white balance, your temperature, how warm I want it, how red I want it, or green. And then, all right, it's too saturated. I'm now going to start messing with those other sliders in HSL and maybe your vibrance and your saturation.
Yeah.
But my number 1 is white balance. Number 2 is going to be the tone curve, which is not just one slider. I
He's
mean,
getting into it.
oh man,
Dude, I'm so scared of the tone
I'm so scared. So scared.
oh man.
Once
Okay.
you understand it, and I started building them into masks now. You can actually adjust tone curves in masks now because it's so it's a selective adjustment, right?
Yeah.
I can find what part of your skin I want to actually lower the luminance or exposure.
Bro. Me with a tone curve, I open it up because I know smart people use it. So I always try. I roll down to it. All I do is make a little S out of it. Like I'll raise here and lower there because that's what everybody seems to do. And it looks like trash. So I'm just
do you
like
know why it's
reset
an S?
and go
Why
back to
is
the
it an
top.
S?
Well, I mean, if it's an S, you're creating contrast, right? These are the top of it is the whites, the lower part is the blacks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you create that S, it's pushing your whites and it's pulling down your blacks. So that's creating the contrast.
Is it doing something that if I went back to the top sort of beginner level and raised my whites and lowered my blacks, is that doing the same thing or is it different?
Well, it's not selective to your.
I don't want to hear that.
No,
I want to hear.
hold on. Maybe,
Tell me it's the same and let's move on.
dude, that's the thing in Lightroom is we are like doing a lot of the same things as we go down that whole panel. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're removing contrast with the contrast slider, but then you're adding it with the tone curve. Like that I don't know exactly. Like if your whites in that slider is the same as your tone curve whites. Like I don't
Well, I
think it
can
is.
tell you're doing, because it's a gradient, because that's what makes the S curve happen. I'm probably just doing like beginner level, all the whites go this way. But when you use a tone curve, it's like this level of white goes this way, but a little bit less goes a little less that way.
Imagine you take your contrast and it's 2D and now you made it 3D. That's
you
the
go.
best way to talk about tone curve. It's an uncontrolled environment where anything can happen. You can literally flip your tone curve and make it a negative image. So that's like
Wow.
you've entered a color space that the contrast node cannot do. And so you can literally alter colors within that tone curve by making points. And so it's just it gives the user a lot more control over specific areas. And each node you put in and raise, it just changes it differently. So it's just a lot more control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah. Just think 3D contrast is the best way to put it. Visual contrast.
Quick question. Is there a camera that you prefer?
Ooh.
I've always been a Canon guy.
Let's go.
Always been a Canon guy. And I don't think I would ever.
Because you love skin tone. And all photographers kind of do, but Canon just does a really good job with that warm skin tone.
And I like their contrast. Sometimes I think Sony's overly contrasted. It's really weird. Fuji, Miles shoots Fuji, and they're amazing. It's incredible. But they have.
He just bought one.
Yeah.
And how do you like it?
It's another level. It's like I'm shooting. It's like I went from a cropped sensor basic starter camera to a real camera. Like it's that much different.
Something 100, right?
Did you get the medium format?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
You-
GSX or
You
whatever.
literally bought Miles' camera, right?
Yeah, like literally
Oh,
from
literally.
him.
Miles is like, do you want this?
Well,
And he's
from
like,
Jared, yeah, but
we'll
yeah.
literally buy it.
Speaking of
Jared
Miles,
got to me first. Miles was trying to sell his too. Jared literally texted me like, "Hey, you want it?" Like, all right.
They're upgrading or something.
Yeah. Fuji probably sent them another box of cameras.
They probably did.
But I love it. I love the detail that you can go to, and because in the camera it doesn't look that different, but when you get it into Lightroom and then you zoom in on something, it's like shooting on a whole different type of photography.
well, that was the interesting part about creating presets for Miles. Was he had all these insane files he sent me, which for one was like
180 megabytes.
so many gigabytes that he sent me that I had to put on my computer. That I just removed. Like, why do I have no space? Oh, that's right. Miles sent me like 100 photos that were like, I don't know. They're like 2 gigs each or something. I don't know if that's quite right, but they're massive.
Yeah.
But there's the color in there is so different.
Yeah.
And the contrast is so different. So then testing those on other camera bodies and sensors was definitely
Right.
a process.
It's doing something inside the camera that's just different. It's all the sensor's obviously bigger. There's more light touching it, but it's processing color before it gets into the computer in a really special way. Like it's like JPEG versus RAW versus medium format. It's that big of a jump.
Dude, if you keep talking, Fujifilm's gonna have to sponsor
this. Right? I know. Give me one.
I know, man.
I mean, but you can buy a decent crappy camera for $1,000, and then you step up to what we would call a pro level. You're $3,000 to $5,000. This is a $10,000.
2 to 3.
Yeah, 2 to 3.
Yeah.
This is like a $10,000 camera.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
And I was reluctant. Like, what are you talking? How good can it be?
Right.
But it really is special.
There's so much detail too.
Mm-hmm. So much detail.
Yeah, you can crop so small.
Yeah, that's another thing. So I photograph. I love half of my editing is cropping. I love creative cropping and drawing attention to a thing. And with medium format, you can do that for days.
Yeah. I remember looking over your shoulder a couple weeks ago and seeing that. Maybe it was Andrew's shoulder. I was like,
yeah.
The creative cropping, you can just, you know,
like a whole dance floor to, I want to get the expression on her face.
Yeah.
And you can still print it.
And then you add the denoise.
Oh my gosh.
Denoise, and there you go. You can crop from that crop. You can keep going.
Yeah.
You can keep going. It's like that when you're going from the universe into the earth, it's just like that.
Keep going.
What they need to do is add the denoise and the super resolution, because you can't do both. I don't know if you guys know that.
I don't even know what super resolution is.
Super resolution?
Oh, so like if you have a low res photo, you can, I think
upscaling.
Yeah, basically upscaling.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can do that in Lightroom now. We used to have to like ship that off to like a brain somewhere. We didn't even know how it worked.
I think it's called Enhance maybe.
Okay.
But I swear it says super resolution.
Probably.
But you can't do both.
Oh.
You can only do denoise or that.
We can make it bigger or we can make it clearer, but we can't do both.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that's something they're going to come out with at some point. I don't know, but I hope.
I didn't even know about that.
Okay. We had another little random question. What the heck is a Lightroom CC for?
The cloud version is what it's called
But
now.
why would you not use Classic?
It's a simpler, easier. It's similar to the mobile app, right? So someone that's used to editing on their phone and all of a sudden they want to start editing, they're used to that. That it feels comfortable to go to that Lightroom cloud version.
Wow.
That's how I feel about it.
Okay. That makes sense. And it also makes sense why I don't care about it.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. It's you don't come from that world of basically people. My brother actually, he used to just edit his entire sessions on the Lightroom mobile app.
No way.
No way, dude.
And using my presets that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Well, there's probably a case for it.
What's the thing at the bottom of Classic? What do we call that? The
calibration?
Calibration. They don't have that in CC.
No.
And that's powerful. Do you ever use that one?
Absolutely. So even when I create my mobile presets, there's calibration in that, which you can't see in the mobile preset, but it is in there. So
you're kidding. It's just a little, but it will still take that data and use it on the photo, but it's not even available.
Right.
No way.
Wow. That's cool.
Did not know that. Hey guys, if you're already a member of Shoot the Veil, feel free to skip through this. If you're not, I want to talk to you about something that could change your career as a wedding photographer. Shoot the Veil is a new platform that is built by wedding photographers for wedding photographers. This platform has everything you need, from courses from creators you love, posing and planning, follow-alongs, and exclusive interviews with some of the world's best wedding photographers. And on top of that, we give away some crazy cool gear every month. If you're not in, go check it out and download it now.
So what's wild that like nobody really knows about, but you know about?
So this is something that I put on most of my presets, and that's a creative profile. I create those in Photoshop. So this is outside of Lightroom. So I can do like specific blend modes with tone curves and color balance layers, even gradient maps I can do. So that's that slider when you apply a preset above like the white balance, and it'll say like Adobe Color normally, but you can't adjust that slider. So mine are custom creative profiles, so you can then adjust that intensity. But I go in and I add all these specific tone curves that are either specific to saturation or specific to luminance, which you can't do that in Lightroom.
Wow.
So if I create a tone curve in Lightroom, I can't make that only add contrast and focus on just luminance, right? It's going to adjust the color and saturation of your image. Whereas if I change that blend mode in Photoshop, it could focus only on saturation or only color.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I feel like you're rewriting the internet. Like, so how are you putting that into Lightroom?
It is a really weird roundabout way that I have to create that and save it for it to then show up in Lightroom.
Okay.
So like one of those, like you can go into a specific layer in Photoshop and say you want it to be a multiply. It could be like a multiply or screen or burn.
I don't think all those would work.
Okay.
There's certain things that cannot be applied. I think I could.
Yeah.
I think I could. It just would look really funky.
Sure.
It would probably look terrible.
Okay.
That's cool. I did not know you could do that. I didn't know you could do that.
Okay.
Well, it is not something that is easy for everyone to use.
Yeah.
But
if we buy your preset, we can get the benefit of
that's the benefit of a creative profile.
Okay.
There's more control with what we can do in Photoshop.
I've never touched that slider or that color, whatever you control. Like I know it's there. Nobody knows what it does. Okay. So if I get your preset, I can slide that and it does different stuff.
Well, yeah, right. Like, so whatever's built into that, you can turn it down or up.
Wow. Okay, cool.
That's awesome.
Man, I feel like we just got, I don't know. I feel like I'm inspired to go learn editing. I feel like you didn't necessarily come in and say, hey, just buy my presets. I feel like you gave me a window into, there's a whole world of stuff that you could play with, and I'll give you the tools to make that fun. Does that make sense? Like you're not doing it for me. You're giving me the tools to actually explore at a different level of creativity.
Right on. And I tell this to photographers all the time. If you're like, consistency is so important. And also having at least one staple in your photography like journey. The wedding days are all different, but if you can I know at least I'm going to have this base, and I know this base works for a lot of photos. It's actually really freeing when you're taking the photo to kind of understand what's going to happen to it. So invest in good presets and they will keep paying off in the future.
Yeah.
All the time.
And if you're a member of Shoot the Veil, they're already baked into your membership. So go jump in. You can get access to some of what Greg has already made.
Right on, man. Greg, thanks for being here, man. This is fun.
Thank you guys, dude. It was so cool to see you guys in person.
I know. We've been internet friends for a long time. This is so great. So great. Awesome, guys. If you want to learn more from Greg, go check out gpresets.com. Check him out on Instagram and go check him out on Shoot the Veil, y'all. This has been a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next time.